Shedeur Sanders walked into Sunday with a rare opportunity for a rookie quarterback on a struggling team. A nationally watched game, a playoff-bound opponent, and a clear runway to strengthen his case as the Cleveland Browns' long-term answer at quarterback. By the time the afternoon ended, that runway looked just as foggy as it did before kickoff. The Browns' 23-20 loss to the Buffalo Bills was not a blowout. It wasn't a talent mismatch. It was a close, winnable game that came down to a handful of critical moments. And that's exactly why the questions around Sanders will linger well beyond this season. This was a game Cleveland could have stolen. Instead, it became another example of why the franchise remains stuck in quarterback purgatory. From the start, Sanders showed why the Browns are intrigued by him. He was calm, decisive, and accurate early, completing his first 8 passes for 84 yards. The offense looked organized. The ball came out on time. He capped that opening stretch with a touchdown pass to tight end Harold Fannin Jr., giving Cleveland early confidence that they could trade punches with one of the AFC's elite teams. But the margin for error against Buffalo is microscopic, and Sanders found that out the hard way. The turning point came on his 9th pass attempt. A slightly off-target throw toward Quinshon Judkins caught the rookie running back on the shoulder pad, popped into the air, and landed in the hands of Bills safety Jordan Poyer. It wasn't a reckless decision, but it was a reminder that NFL windows are unforgiving. 1 inch off can flip a game. Things only got tougher from there. Cleveland lost Judkins later in the game to a broken leg, stripping Sanders of one of his most dynamic offensive weapons. Sanders himself briefly left the game with a bloody pinky on his throwing hand, an injury scare that could have unraveled a young quarterback. To his credit, he returned immediately and continued to battle. That's part of the Sanders appeal. He doesn't flinch. He doesn't panic. Even as Buffalo's pass rush ramped up, he kept attacking. But resilience alone doesn't win games in the NFL. Early in the third quarter, Sanders made the most damaging mistake of his afternoon. Under pressure, his pass was tipped by Joey Bosa at the line of scrimmage and intercepted by defensive tackle Daquan Jones deep in Cleveland territory. Buffalo didn't score a touchdown off it, but they did add 3 points that ultimately mattered. Those turnovers loomed large because the Browns' margin was already thin. Buffalo's offense, while not explosive through the air on this day, controlled the game on the ground behind James Cook. Cook was unstoppable early, averaging over 11 yards per carry in the first half and ripping off a 44-yard touchdown run that showcased everything Cleveland's defense struggled with: missed tackles, poor angles, and late reactions. Cook's dominance forced Cleveland into a constant chase mode. Josh Allen didn't need to be Superman. In fact, he was relatively quiet by his standards, finishing just 12 of 19 for 130 yards. He even had an injury scare late in the first half after a wild scramble ended with him limping off with a right foot issue. Myles Garrett was hunting history, trying to tie the single-season sack record, but came up half a sack short on the play. Allen returned after halftime, X-rays negative, and managed the game from there. To Cleveland's credit, they didn't fold. They leaned into the run game in the second half against a Buffalo defense that entered the week ranked near the bottom of the league in rushing yards allowed. The Browns put together a bruising 14-play, 67-yard drive late in the third quarter, running the ball 11 times and draining over 8 minutes off the clock. It was old-school, methodical football, and it worked. That drive, followed by a fourth-quarter field goal from Andre Smith, cut the Bills' lead to 23-20 and set the stage for Sanders to deliver the moment Cleveland has been searching for at quarterback for decades. Twice, he had the ball with a chance to take the lead. Twice, it slipped away. The first opportunity ended brutally. Facing 4th and 2 in his own half, Sanders took a blindside sack that completely flipped field position and momentum. That's the kind of play veteran quarterbacks feel coming. It's the kind of play rookies often don't. The second chance felt like fate stepping back in Cleveland's favor. Buffalo failed to convert on 4th and 1 when Dawson Knox dropped a potential touchdown in the end zone. The Browns got the ball back with life still breathing. But then came the sequence that will define the post-game conversation. Sanders took another sack then, under heavy pressure and backed up near his own end zone, committed an intentional grounding penalty while trying to avoid disaster. The penalty all but sealed the game. Cleveland was finished. Buffalo ran out the clock. On paper, Sanders' stat line wasn't catastrophic. He showed touch, he showed mobility, he showed command. But quarterbacks in the NFL are judged less by flashes and more by outcomes, and in the biggest moments of the game, Sanders came up short. That doesn't mean he failed. It means the evaluation remains incomplete. This is the cruel reality of quarterback development in Cleveland. Sanders is being asked to grow in real time on a 3-12 team with limited margin for error, injuries to key skill players, and a fan base exhausted by decades of instability at the position. Every mistake is magnified. Every missed opportunity feels like another chapter in the same old story. The Browns didn't lose this game solely because of Sanders. Their defense couldn't contain James Cook early. Their offense sputtered in the red zone. Injuries reshaped their game plan on the fly. But when the moment came for the quarterback to rise above all of that, Sanders wasn't quite there yet. And that's why the questions will persist. Is he the guy who can grow into those moments? Or is he another name on the long list of quarterbacks who flashed promise but couldn't consistently close? Cleveland doesn't have the answer yet. Neither does Sanders. What they do have is clarity on what comes next. These final games aren't about wins and losses anymore. They're about whether Sanders can learn from moments like this, the sacks, the pressure, the fine line between aggression and survival, and turn them into growth. Because in the NFL, the difference between potential franchise quarterback and another unanswered question often comes down to just a few plays. Sunday showed just how thin that line really is. Shedeur Sanders walked into Sunday with a real opportunity, not a symbolic one, not a we'll see what happens. This was a game against an 11-4 Bills team at home with national eyes watching and with Cleveland's quarterback future still very much unresolved. 2 fourth-quarter chances to take the lead, 2 moments where a young quarterback can flip a narrative in real time. Instead, the questions followed him off the field. The Browns' that 23-20 loss to Buffalo dropped them to 3-12, but the record almost feels secondary. This game was about evaluation, about whether Sanders could rise above chaos, mistakes, and pressure and show Cleveland something it can build around. What he showed instead was a familiar mix of promise, flashes, and costly breakdowns when the moment demanded control. The opening stretch actually felt encouraging. Sanders was sharp early, poised, decisive. He completed his first 8 passes for 84 yards, capped by a touchdown to tight end Harold Fannin Jr. The ball came out on time. His footwork looked calm. He even showed comfort manipulating the pocket rather than panicking inside it. For a brief window, it looked like the Browns might have found some rhythm against a Buffalo defense that's been vulnerable in stretches this season. Then came the reminder of how thin the margin is. His first interception wasn't reckless, but it was damaging. A pass behind rookie running back Quinshon Judkins hit the shoulder pad, popped into the air, and landed in the hands of Jordan Poyer. It wasn't a bad decision, so much as a bad miss. But in the NFL, the scoreboard doesn't care which one it was. Momentum flipped, and the Bills immediately leaned into what they do best. James Cook became the engine of the game. Buffalo didn't need Josh Allen to take over early. They leaned on Cook, and Cleveland had no answer. Cook averaged over 11 yards per carry in the first half, slicing through lanes, breaking tackles, and making defenders miss in space. His 44-yard touchdown run in the first quarter was a snapshot of the afternoon. Vision, burst, and patience all in one play. 2 touchdowns on just 9 carries before halftime told the story clearly. Buffalo was in control without forcing anything. Cleveland, meanwhile, absorbed another gut punch. Quinshon Judkins, who had already been dealing with the growing pains of a rookie season, went down with a broken leg after a tackle in the open field.